I was thinking tonight I would read you a fireside bedtime story. This is an original story written and composed by me. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a pretty princess. In fact, it's a bit of a coincidence because her name was Princess, just like yours. The problem was the princess had woken up from a nightmare one night, and she did not want to go back to sleep. I hate the nighttime, she said. I hate sleeping, said Princess. I wish there was no nighttime, and I wish I never had to sleep. Well, Princess got up and she packed a bag and said, I'm leaving this place. I'm going to find some place that has no nighttime. I'm going to find a place that has no darkness. I am going to find my place in the sun. And then I'll never have to sleep again, and there will be no nighttime, and there will be no nightmares. Well, first thing in the morning, Princess packed some supplies, and she packed her tent, and she left her cozy castle. With her bag thrown over her shoulder, she headed out in search of her place in the sun. Well, Princess walked on, and by midday the sun had risen high into the sky as she crossed a wide, flat field of tall grasses and short trees. Surely this is my place in the sun. It's so bright and cheerful. The air was filled with busy bumblebees and squirrels running from tree to tree. This is not a place of sleep, she said. This is not a place of darkness. I'll make this my home, she said. I will make this my place in the sun. So Princess set up her tent and made herself some tea and sat marveling at the beauty of the day. But as the day went on, the sun started getting lower in the sky, and as it did, Princess started getting sleepier and sleepier. And before long, the sun had set, and Princess crawled into her tent for a deep, restful sleep. Well, when Princess woke the next morning, she was relieved that there had been no nightmares, but she was disappointed that night had fallen. She was disappointed that this was not her place in the sun. Well, I guess I'll have to keep looking, said Princess. She had some breakfast, she packed her supplies and her tent, and she continued on her way. On and on she walked until the grasses gave way to sand, and she could smell the fresh, salty air of the sea. Before long, she stood facing the massive and mighty ocean. The wind was hard and brisk, and it whipped her hair into a wildcat frenzy as tall waves crashed on the rocks and the shore with a deafening sound. Such a loud and energetic and noisy place this is. Surely there is no sleep here. Perhaps this is my place in the sun. So Princess set up her camp on the shore of the ocean. Her tent was tied down low and tight to keep it from blowing away in the relentless winds. A small fire of driftwood was just enough to heat up her tea before she had to let it blow out. Drinking her tea, Princess looked off into the distant horizon of the ocean and marveled at its beauty. Perhaps this is my place in the sun, she repeated. But before long, she started feeling sleepy, and the sun started going down, so she crawled into her tent for a long and restful sleep. When she awoke, she was relieved that there had been no nightmares, but she was again disappointed that night had come. This is a nice place, she said, but this is not my place in the sun. So she packed up her tent and her supplies, and she continued on her search. She turned inland this time, toward the higher grounds. She walked over low foothills, which gave way to steep trails, and before long found herself high in the mountains. It was cold in the mountains. The winds were fierce, and the ground was rugged and unforgiving. Such a harsh and hard place to live, said Princess. Surely there's no sleep here. So Princess set up her camp, and she heated up her tea by the fire as she marveled at the harsh beauty of the world around her. But before long she began feeling sleepy again, and as the sun went down, she crawled into her tent for a long and restful night's sleep. The next morning she awoke, and again she was relieved that there had been no nightmares, but again she was disappointed that this was not her place in the sun. So she packed up her tent and her supplies, and she continued walking. She walked along the highest ridge, where the ravens danced in the winds that came up the side of the mountain. and from the mountain ridge she could see in all directions. She could see the ocean off in the distance, and she could even see the beach where she had set up camp 2 nights before. And turning her head slightly, she could see the open fields, and she could even see the field of tall grasses and short trees where she had set up camp 3 nights before. And turning her head again, she saw a familiar sight in the distance. She could see her cozy castle, just as she had left it, and she knew that within that cozy castle was her cozy room and her cozy bed. "My castle," she said. Princess took a deep breath and smiled. "Perhaps that has been my place in the sun all along." So Princess returned to her cozy castle, and she went up to her cozy room, and she lied down in her cozy bed. "Finally my place in the sun," she said, before drifting off for a long, restful night's sleep.